Right, so we will be starting right now. So the agenda for today is mainly about how to get you started on your first game. So the finishing touches. We're going to figure out how to do some simple movement, especially on a platformer with gravity, and also in top-down, whereby you can move in all directions. Then we also figure out how to do instancing and how to free things. So currently our progress is like this. In this game, we just touch this guy and then he will attack. He will just fly up. And then after 10 hits, he will die. If you use an arrow with the same collision, then if you attack him like few times, he will die. And he will be kill free. So that's your purpose of the game, how to make elements appear and disappear. That is the fundamentals of making a game. So now we just need to do some finishing touches, such as UI. I'll also be fulfilling the part about jumping and also a part about how to do this in the first place. Of course, I did this offline. Right, so that means that let's look at how to summon a arrow and make it trace your arrow, make it trace your cursor. So if you take a look at the player, if you go and press the space bar or UI asset, which is also the enter key, then afterwards what will happen is that you will be able to summon an arrow using this preloaded asset here. Okay, so remember that every single time you want to insert something, we have to load it. Okay, the game engine doesn't know where this thing is coming from, where the scene is from. So what you have to do is that you have to state it right at the top, a variable, or you can say it's constant. Okay, this is also valid because what you are loading is not going to change. So if you say constant, then nothing will happen. Okay, it just makes it such that you can't change it. So if you have a constant, let me just zoom in a little bit. If you have the constant, then and you preloaded it, this will be a capital letter. It doesn't matter, it's just a naming convention to say that this is a class. And with all classes, we can instantiate it using the dot instance. Okay, so unlike many other object-oriented programming languages, this one is going to use instance instead of new. Okay, so now we have created an instance of it. Okay, this is just a copy of the arrow. And we're going to set the position at the player's position and make it such that it is summoned right at the arrow. Alright? Okay. So now how do you make it track you? Alright, if everyone is caught up, let's look at the arrow. So if you know where it is, right, you can go to your file explorer here and double click on the arrow. But another nifty thing is that if you ever see like a path directory like that, you can press hold control and click on it, and then it'll bring you right to where the object is. Okay, so with that, what you have is instead you have this physics process, which means that it's going to run every frame. Every frame is going to look at your global mouse position. So what does this mean? What is good to look at? Well, it's a very useful tool that allows you to rotate the node. Okay, so you don't have to play with the rotation. This one just allows you to rotate the node so it points towards the point. And that point is your mouse cursor. So if your mouse cursor, right, is going to be globally at 720 or 220, then it will point towards it and rotate itself that way. Okay, so once it looks at, right, all you need to do is propel it towards that point. Okay, so every frame, what we're going to do is to make the position move towards the difference between that point and your current position. Okay, so if you think about vector maths, then afterwards, every single time you want to find a direction vector from this point to this point, for example, then all you need to do is just take this vector 2, for example, and make it minus vector 1. And then what happens is that you get this directional vector, vector 2 minus vector 1, and you can normalize it. So what does normalizing do? It makes it such that the unit vector, the magnitude of this vector is going to be 1. And it's going to multiply by 5. So this 5 is the speed that I ask it to be. If I take it to be 10, which is going to be 2 times of it, and I play, now the arrow that is summoned will travel 2 times faster. Okay, so this is just a constant. If you want to, you also can make it into a constant and you just say speed, and you just define a constant here in capital letters, and it will register as a speed that you can change. All right, so that is what we have for the arrow to make it track itself. with just two simple lines, you can make something more dynamic. So if you see what the game is like this, how it's like this, right? You can actually think of some ideas for the game jam if you're participating. So if you make something like move and traces towards you, right? You can make it, traverse through a maze or try to attack something. You might attack dodging projectiles or that kind of things. Also notice that there's this little glitch whereby it kind of like takes two directions at once because it's way too close to the mouse position. So we just keep alternating directions just because it's too close to it. To avoid this, what you can do is you can set a condition whereby it's close enough, then it will stop rotating, for example. Okay, and also either that you can kill free it because currently this arrow is immortal and there's no way to actually free it. So what you can do is you can kill free after a certain time. So now let's learn about timers. Okay, timers are a lot. You can define a lot of things and they are very important. So you just add a node, Control A, and you can add a node called timer. Okay, what this timer will do is to be defined as a type of. Let me just. What's this? Let me just alright. If there's any questions, just ask on Zoom as well. That's also fine. Okay, so you look at the timer, right? So what you can do is you can actually see the time here. So the wait time defines how long this timer is going to be. There are also multiple things such as auto start, whereby when this arrow is there, it will immediately start. Okay, I think this is very important for this arrow. Why? Because once you start it immediately, the moment it is summoned, and then such that 5 seconds later it's going to die. Okay, then we also have one shot. So what one shot does is that the timer doesn't repeat. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. If one shot is on, this timer will not restart. Okay, then if you turn on one shot, turn off one shot, right? It will recycle. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, and you just keep repeating. So what's so important about this timer is the fact that it can have a signal. So much like the collision shape here that has a signal to the ball here that has a signal to sense whether or not it's been attacked. Then you also can have a signal for a timer. Okay, so what a timer is to make a timer work is that you have this signal called timeout. So that means that once the timer is over, it will send a signal. Now you can imagine how powerful this is because with the timer telling you what to do after it's out, then you can define a lot of behaviors based on time. So let's connect this. What you can do is that you can double click on the timeout and connect it to the arrow itself. Okay, this is the only thing that has a script and therefore it's the only thing that's valid. Okay, it will create a receiver method called on timer timeout and voila, it's here. So what we want to do, very simple, just one word to make it go away. This entire arrow die is called queuing. Okay. Now this timer, right, we should rename it to lifetime. Okay, lifetime simply is okay. I need to rename this too. Lifetime simply means how long it's going to be alive, and I'm going to connect it to this. Okay, you can rename your receiver methods of signals, but what you have to be take note of, right, is that this little icon is gone now. Okay, if you take a look, there was this icon here. This means that this is a receiver method, and that your signal will go towards this, will run this set function when the signal is received. However, if you change the name of it, then it will stop working. So you have to be careful. And now what you want to do, if you ever want to rename your functions, then what you can do is that you have to edit this. Okay, so every single time you connect a signal, it will be right here. And what you can do is that you can edit. Okay, so now let's rename this to what it currently is. It's called lifetime. Okay, and connect, it will be automatically connected. It won't create a new receiver method. Okay, so with this, you'll notice that if you run the game now, if you summon an arrow, 5 seconds later, it's gone. Okay, in fact, it's just 5 ticks. It doesn't even feel like 5 seconds. Yep. So you can imagine like this can be like a machine gun or something, and then afterwards, when you fire something, this would make the bullets disappear. Or else you would have like a range of infinity. Okay, so if you're thinking of making a shooter for the game, what you can do is make bullets have different lifetimes, different speeds. So if it's a shotgun, you want to expect the lifetime to be shorter so that you don't have a range of 100 meters, for example. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk about what your task was last week. So last week we talked about jumping. Okay, we want to make it such that this person can jump when he presses the spacebar button. All right, we have this challenge here. You can see, it's called what do you need to make? What do you need to do to make the player jump? All right, so we have the player jump function here. When we jump, then we can make it such that the person's velocity goes up by 10 or 100. As you can see here, if the gravity is making you go down by 9.81 every single frame, then the logic is that if you want to go upwards, then you can make the velocity dot y go 100 units above. Go 100 units above. And by 100 units means that you have to minus equals. Okay, because up is negative. So when you do that, then you're correct. It does jump. But what you can notice is that you can actually spam spacebar and the person will fly away. Okay, so that's not good. But if you want to make like Flappy Bird, then of course this is something that you can do because this looks like Flappy Bird. Like if you want to go to a hook, then you can spam a bunch of times and then you can finally go up. Okay, so that's fine. But what you want to do is that you want the person to actually jump and not jump again. Otherwise, this would be like jump back, try to right or something. So what we have to do is that we have to make it such that this jump is a little higher, so that it's a bit realistic. So if I jump like this, then afterwards I can jump very high. So high that it's too far. Okay, so what we want to do is I want to make it like 500. And that's your impulse. The impulse are like the force that you take to actually jump. Yes. I think that's a good amount. Let's move this down a bit. So let's go to the map, to our 2D viewport. And then afterwards we take everything and move it down. Okay, if you want to shift it, if you want to make it like move everywhere, right? Then you hold shift and you can make it move along the y-axis. And now it's lower. So if we press jump, then afterwards you can fly. But notice that we can just keep pressing spacebar and we will keep jumping. So that means that we will need to sense where the ground is. Okay. So what we want to do is that when we touch the ground, then we can jump again. Else we can only jump one time. Okay, so we jump one time, we cannot jump anymore. Alright, so what you're thinking of, right, is something called a Boolean value. So let's make it such that you have a jump. Okay, so instead of making it a Boolean, what we can do is make it an integer. Okay, so we can have the variable called jumps remaining. Okay, so what this value will be, right, is the initial value of how many times you can jump. Okay, then when you jump, you have jumps remaining minus equals 1. And what you want to do, right, is that you can only jump if you're pressing the spacebar button and you have enough jumps remaining. So jumps remaining is more than or equals to 1. Or I can say more than 0. Okay. Now the n% here, right, is representing n, but if you're used to Python, it's also end, like the English end. Same thing for r. You also can write r, or you can write this. Both are acceptable, but Godot recommends using end. But I type C++, so I will use it. Yeah. Okay, but yeah, okay, for the sake of teaching good programming practices, you should use end. Okay, so with that, let's test our game. We can jump, and we don't have any more remaining jumps. So now I press spacebar, it doesn't happen. So how do you replenish that jump remaining? Well, what you can do, right, is that you sense what is up. But how do you sense what is up? Okay, no, how do you sense you're on the ground? Okay, so you sense that you're on the ground, right? Then you replenish the amount of jumps that you have. Okay, so how to do that? Well, we need to sense what is the ground. Okay, in other words, if you think about the ground, it's basically just a place whereby when your character is on the surface. So if your character is against the surface like this, right? And this is like your hitbox. Okay, a person's a hitbox like that. Then the normal vector, the vector that is you're colliding against, right, is going to be in this direction. So that is not the ground, that's a wall. You know, this would be useful for wall jumping, for example, if you want to detect wall jumping. So, but if you're on the ground, right, it means that your normal vector, this is your hitbox. The normal vector is facing upwards. Okay, so there's this really handy feature. If any of you know, want to say out, what is this feature that allows you to jump if you're found out from last week? Anyone in Zoom also knows? If you, oh my goodness, the Zoom is dead. Wait, is it now? It's not very legit. I was overreacting. Yeah. Right. Okay. Okay. Right. Yeah. If anyone in Zoom also knows, it's the challenge from last week. So I'll just say the answer right now. It's basically in your move and slide. Okay. If you take a look at your move and slide, and you take a look at the documentation, there's this second argument called up direction. Then you'll be wondering, oh, isn't that convenient? They allow us to have this up direction right here. So what does it say? It says that, I can't zoom in by the way, so it's like this. So the up direction is the up direction. You know, we don't say. But it's used to determine what is a wall and what is a floor or a ceiling. It's set to the default value of vector 0, 0. Everything is considered to a wall. Okay, this is useful for top-down games. Alright, so that means that this up direction, right, will allow you to sense what is a wall, or in our case, what is a floor. Okay, so what is the floor is going to be a direction that has a normal vector of upwards. Okay, in other words, 0, -1, because up is negative. Okay, so you go back to your script. I'm gonna hide my thing. Okay, so you go back to your script, and you find out that you can put in a second argument here. Now this vector, right, is going to be accepting this argument is going to be accepting a vector 2. So we just type vector 2, and we can give it a value of 0 and -1. Or we can do what is considered one of the classes constants, which is dot up. Okay, so dot up, right, is basically just 0, -1. Okay, shorthand. So now you've identified what is a floor. It's going to be something that is directed upwards. Now, how do you sense it? Okay, so in order to do that, what you can do is that you have to say that the person is on the floor. So every frame will check whether or not the person is on the floor. Okay, there are better ways to do this, but for now we'll just stick this on floor. Is on floor. Okay, is on floor. And you can. This is the function that allows you to sense whether or not you're on the floor. Okay, so you right click, you control click on it. It's a built-in function. It returns true if the body is collided with the floor on the last call move and slide. Okay, so isn't that convenient? All right, so this one was tied to kinematic body. If you see where this documentation is, right, it's in kinematic body 2D. So this is a specific function of kinematic body 2D. Now I go back to your script, and you can just write a if statement to say where this guy is. Okay, so let me go back to the player.gd. So if it's on floor, then your jumps remaining will be replenished to the default of 1. Okay, and then you play. Now I can jump. I depleted my sling, I depleted my jump, and I can jump again. Okay, but what you're noticing is that I can double jump. Because I think I didn't set the if statement correctly. 1, 0 plus 1. So this one 1 and 1 minus equals 1. That's really 1, 0 will be I think this should come before. Okay. I can still double jump. I think. Nope, can't double jump. Yep. Okay, so we fixed it. So this means that yeah, now you can move. I can jump one time and you can just go down. Okay, you can change the gravity, play around with the variables, and that will affect the amount that it has. Okay. Now we will take a short break while I ask for some questions. Any questions? And prompt, are you alright?
Should be quite more like I don't have any of this on screen, so I need to be following on later.
Yeah, okay. You know what? Let's get you started right now. You have Godot installed?
Yep.
Okay, so I have uploaded the previous documents in the Discord. So you just go to Discord. We have our files up there. So this is the everything that we have so far.
Alright, might need to do just new one.
Yeah. So
I regard it as I could have used this.
So yeah, Godot works by having a projects folder. So let me guide you through it. Yeah. I think you got it.
That's very good.
Hi, all those people on Zoom. Yeah, are you coming for the game jam 2 days later? Leonardo and Racy. Are you coming for the game jam 2 days later? Yeah, you can still come over even if you're going to be late. It's just that. Okay, can. Alright. Yeah, that's alright. So I think it's a very good experience because you finally make a game. It's based on your freedom. In fact, this will be one of the last few lessons whereby I'll be conducting a lesson because we will have a collaboration effort, teams collaboration kind of sessions afterwards. Yeah, I can come with late. We'll just pair you up with the team. I'm not sure. I don't really think we really care about the credit. Okay.
What mean credit?
Like if the person comes in last minute, or not in last minute, like perhaps like 2 p.m.
You just join one of the other teams.
Yeah, you join one of the other teams.
Yeah.
But credit wise, I don't really think we care about credit. Like because there's the other prizes. Okay, yeah. We just have pizza.
Pizza.
Yeah, it's pizza for everyone.
Pizza.
Yeah, it's pizza for everyone. Yeah, but it's kind of based on the honors, so don't just come in for the pizza. Okay. Oh, you need to leave early. Yeah, sure.
Are we free to design any games given the sets you
Are you free to what?
design any games?
Yeah, any game you want.
It's a fixed asset game.
Okay.
So you must use the asset.
Unless you're like artists. Because sometimes we have some artists and some musicians who are learning GameStart right now.
I kind of wonder why
And we try to pair them up with whichever group they want to.
Why it's named well that.
By the way,
Why change?
yeah. Right. So
Because it removes
because
the
we are going to get
like the
now.
load from the queue because it's stored as a queue in the memory, right?
I just
Oh,
Yeah, it's a which year are you?
Was it the one
Oh, internal.
Which year are you?
Year two.
Because they just now they tried to contact me days ago. I saw it.
Yeah.
That was they look a bit.
I put it
I don't know why the group does that.
you can fix the offset of it. So what you can do, right, is that go to your project settings. Okay, then you go to the type of window, just search window. And you can try to define where the window will be placed. Okay, so okay, yeah, it's a bit annoying with that. So you know what I'll do? I'll do
Because
okay, let me search how to make the window like center. First guy when you play the game, like the window on the right top right. Can you fix yeah, you're done. Alright, so let's move on. Okay, let's move on. We will make, let me think about what's my agenda. Camera and the scene transition. Okay, so we done the jumping. And UI and scene switching. Okay, so let's do the camera. Okay, so a very annoying thing that you notice about a game is the fact that you can't actually see anything much. Okay. So if you want to make the camera centered around the player, which is common in almost all platforming games and top-down games, okay, what you can do is that you can define a camera that will be set on the person. So much like a lot of scenes that you have, right? You want to make it such that a camera is in the scene. Okay, so in this game, we want the camera to be centered on our player. In some other games, you can make the camera, pan around, make a cutscene, make it look part of the map. In that case, right, you make the camera child of the map, and then when you enter that map or that cutscene, then the camera will pan around the entire map, and then it will return back to your player camera. Okay, so we need a script to do that if you want to create a game like that. But for now, let's do something simple. Let's make it such that the camera is centered around the player, and it will follow the player wherever he goes. Okay, so let's go to the player. And so what I did is that if you have this clipper symbol, you just click on it and then you can open the scene itself rather than the instance. So you get to see all his children. Let's add another child. Let that child be the camera. Okay. Oh, by the way, if anyone in Zoom is not following and doesn't have all the scenes here, right? What you can do is they can go to Discord. Our Discord has the file that I uploaded last week, which is basically everything that we have so far. So if you want to get caught up, then that's the file. Okay, so let's go back to this one. Yeah, so now we add a camera 2D. Now this doesn't actually require any code for you to move the camera around unless you specifically define it. But what we have, right, is that we just need to go to our 2D scene. The camera, the bounds of the camera, once it was created, is actually this big. Okay, it's humongous. Why? Because it takes on the size of the entire window. So when you created a window, it was defined to be around like 1920, around there. So you said it was portrait mode, for example. Now instead of doing that, let's just go to the inspector and make it smaller. To make it smaller, it's going to be a zoom. Okay, so you want to zoom it down to 50% of its size, then you write 0.5. Same thing for the Y, and now you got a 50% camera. Okay. Now another thing that you need to do, right, to make this camera your main camera, the camera of your game, is that you just type, you just click on rotating. Oh, sorry, not rotating. Click on current. Okay, and this will make it such that this camera is your main camera, right? Now you want to switch cameras. If you ever want to make a game that has like multiple cameras, then all you need to do is just turn on this current camera and go to another camera in another node somewhere else and turn that current property on. Okay, and as simple as that, your camera is now working. See? Let me get rid of this. Yeah, but you see, this button is now zoomed in really nice. Okay, so yeah, that's as simple as that. You just need to create a node that defines the camera. And let me just check why my bounds like that. Okay, so go in. Okay. Yeah, if you want to make the camera like not look like that, or like the width of the screen not to be like that, then you can just change the bounds here. My one is currently a portrait, so I just flip that around and now it'll be hard landscape. Okay. Yep, so now the camera is zoomed like that. Alright. So yeah, sorry. Okay, so besides that, let's go on to creating a UI. Alright, so the UI element is going to be what you want in your game. Okay, so in our game jam, we try to expect that you can give your players a appropriate tutorial. Okay, so how do I know if I'm a player? How do I know that I'm supposed to press spacebar to summon a bunch of arrows that can track me? Okay, so all those can be explained using a UI element. Okay, so UI elements, right, are basically your user interface elements. And what you want to do is that you want to make it such that it's always part of the screen and that it tells the player what to do. So to do that, we want to make it such that it's part of the game and not actually part of the map. Okay, so currently our main scene is the map. If you want to take a look where's our main scene, you just go to project settings and you go to find the main scene. Right? So in the run application part, it will just run from the map1.tscn. So in other words, that's our main scene. But what we want to do, right, is that we want to have a scene that controls the maps. Okay, so this will be useful for our scene switching later on. Okay, so what we want to do is create a new node, and this node will be a generic node. Okay, so you can click other node, and you just give a node. Okay, so what is node? Okay, node is going to be a generic type. Okay, this gray looking thing is going to be the blank thing, the most blank, most template node out there. Okay, it has nothing in it. So I click on it, and it's pretty much just a plain node that doesn't have anything. Go to the inspector, right? Notice that there's no properties, no nothing. So this gray node is the most generic node out there, but it's also perfect for you to attach a script and to actually define some of its features. Okay, so you go to game, and you go to rename this as game, okay? And you want to save this as game scene. Okay, so now we have this game scene. What we want this game scene to do is to actually be the instantiator and controller of every single map UI element that is in your game. Okay, so when you run the game, then this thing will control the maps and stuff. Now, if you want to go a level higher and you want to control the main menu, for example, then you also create a master node. So currently our game tree looks like this. So this is all about game architecture or game structure, whereby when you start your game, right, your game engine is going to run one node, one scene. Now we can define this scene as the main node. Okay, this is where your entire program will start. So if this main node out there, then we will want to instantiate a main menu, for example. Okay, so we will just instance a main menu scene that is going to be a child of this main scene or instance of it, and it's going to be called the title screen, for example, the main menu. Yeah, title menu, for example. Okay, then with the title menu, right, you press the start button. Okay, you press the start button, then afterwards you start your game. If you press the exit button, then afterwards you go queue free, and that's when your game will end. Okay, but if you press the start button, then afterwards you run the game scene. Okay, so this is where we are at right now. Okay, this is where we're at. Now this game scene, right, will then control everything. So you have map 1, you have map 2, map 3, map 4, map 5, level 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4. How do you control all that? Well, all you need to do is to create it such that you instance it as a child of yourself, and you can have a selection of all the maps up here. So you can have map 1, or you can have map 2, or you can have map 3, or everything else that is in there. Then with each map, right, it comes with its own children, its own scenes. It has the platforms. It has the mobs. If you're doing a platformer, you will have like the mobs and all the decorations, for example, like the background, spawners, and all that kind of stuff. So if you take this entire thing out, right, you cut it off, and then you instance another map inside, then afterwards it's a completely new scene, completely new thing. The game scene also has a bunch of other things, such as the main menu, the UI elements, because they'll always stick with you. Then when you switch on the map, right, this thing still stays because it's just the setting of the game. And you also have like other elements such as the player, whereby the player will not be a child of the map. It will be a independent of the map, such that when you switch on the map, then the player still exists and it's not dying. Okay. So that's how the game structure should be, or at least that was my game structure for when I was creating my Maple Story game, which is platformer. Okay, so with that, we will do something like that. Okay, so now we have the game scene. All we need to do, right, is to make this not the main scene and make this one the main scene. Okay, so let's just instance the child scene. Okay, so instancing a child scene just simply means that we are going to make an existing scene a child. So you see all these guys here. We will make it such that our map 1 will be our child scene. And you can see everything is imported right here. Okay, so we have the map 1. It looks like this, and then we have the game like this. And like I said just now, the player should not be a child of the map. So let's get rid of this guy. Okay, let's remove the player from the map, because it really shouldn't be a child of the map. So we delete the node, but don't worry, the player still exists because the player is a file in itself. All we did just now was to instance it. Same thing here, we will instance it here. Okay, so we go to your game. Okay, and we will create a player that's independent of the map. In other words, it's not a child. So that's Control A, okay, not Control A, sorry, Control Shift A, which is going to be instance of scene, or you can just right click and instance the child scene as always. And we will, okay, Control Shift A, okay. We will create a player.tscn. Okay, so now both of them are instance of each other. You Control S, and now let's fix our project by making it such that our main scene is no longer the map 1, but instead it's going to be the game scene. Okay, so we instance it. Now when you play, everything is going to be the same. You see, nothing broke. Okay, so that's the power of making a bunch of objects or nodes and then moving them around, instancing them independent of one another. But believe it or not, this player is not going to be relative of the map, and therefore you can control them independently. They won't be affecting one another. Okay, if you want to take a look, you don't believe me that it was different from just now, you just move this aside, go to your remote, which is where you can actually see where the magic is happening, and you notice that the game node is now being the main scene. Okay, so this is how the game structure is like, basically. So, okay, so we have the game and the player and all the stuff. So like I said, we also have the UI elements right there. So let's create a heads-up display. Okay, so the HUD, which is basically the what the game is, what you're actually seeing in the game when you're playing, is like includes the health bar, the mana bar, the experience, the points, all that kind of stuff. If you're playing like Space Invaders, for example. So what we want to do is that we want to create a new scene and then instance it right here, such that it's going to be like independent of the game. Alright, so we create a new scene and we're going to call this a user interface type of node. Okay, so this one's going to be green in color. Okay, so we click on the user interface and you can see that this is a control node. Basically, it's user interface type of nodes. Okay, so we just add the control. So you notice that the control, right, immediately the bounds of the control, the size of it, is going to fill it up all the way until it takes up the entire screen. Okay, so that means that automatically it knows that it's trying to take up as much space as possible, because this is your screen size. Okay, it's 1920 by 1080p, for example. And you can add a bunch of elements inside. So you Control A, right? Now you can go explore all the types of nodes that are here, but mainly it's under control. So notice that your node 2Ds, right, are actually what's it called? A child of canvas item. Canvas items are basically like 2D flat kind of things. That's why I call it a canvas. Whereas all the 3D nodes, which are colored red, are all what's it called? Independent of the canvas item. So that's pretty interesting. So you go to control, right? You will see a bunch of stuff here. Alright, you have a pop-up, a container, a button, and you have a bunch of buttons like a blink button, a texture button. You have color rectangle, which is basically just a flat color. You can create gradients of it. You have item list. That one is like a grid kind of system. Label. This one's going to be very important. And a panel. And a video player, for example, you want to play like a cutscene or something. Yeah. So what we want to do is that we want to create a container that contains all the elements. So let's imagine our element looks like this. So let me cancel out here first. So imagine that our user interface should look like something like, just draw something like this. Okay, so imagine this is our game. Then we'll have a pen for a reason. Okay. Okay. So imagine you have a bar like this. This will tell you amount of HP that you have. Okay. And based on the number of balls that you kill, right, you have a score right here. It will tell you how much points you have. Okay. So as simple as that, let's create something like that. Okay. So get out of the user interface. Yeah. So with this control, we will add a horizontal box. Okay. So what the top panel was, right, is called a horizontal box container. What is it? It's a container that contains a bunch of other UI elements. Okay. What this is called is under a container. Okay. A container has a bunch of them, and one of them, the one that we want, right, is actually called a box container. It's called HBox container. H for horizontal. Okay, V for vertical. So if you want to create your elements vertically, then yeah, this is your guy. Okay. If for example you want to create something that goes diagonal, then what you can do is that you can combine a horizontal box container and a vertical box container. Something that looks like Persona, for example, whereby the things fans out like that. Looks quite cool. Okay, so you create a horizontal box container, and now you notice that this child is going to be at the top right. Okay, that's something that we want. Now in this horizontal box container, right, it's actually not that useful in itself because it's a container. It's supposed to contain a bunch of other control nodes, UI elements in it. So let's add a bunch of other nodes. They're going to be called labels. Okay, you have a rich text label. That one is for if you want to create some very nice text whereby it has colors and RGB, for example. But let's just go with a normal label. Okay. Now, if you type a label is basically just something that contains text. Okay, so you can type health, and then you put a colon. What I notice is that immediately it shows up here. Okay. Godot give a warning that yeah, your health is going to be like that. So with the health here, what I noticed about the HBox container, right, is that if you add another child into it, it will actually append it right to the right of the nodes that are embedded. So let's create a color rectangle. Sorry, call it progress bar. Okay, what the heck is a progress bar? What is it? I think it's texture progress. Yeah, texture progress. Actually, yeah, you know what? Let's go with a progress bar. I've played this one before. So let's go with a progress bar. So what is a progress bar? It's just simply if you give it a percentage, for example, 99% or 50%, then afterwards the area that this progress bar shows, right, it's gonna be 50% filled up. So that's really useful because we want to show a health bar that is like dropping. So luckily Godot has a node for that. So we have this progress bar and this health. Notice that they are both appended horizontally because that's what the HBox container does. Okay, so let's have this health be bigger by making it such that the size is bigger. So notice that the control elements are a bit difficult because they have a bunch of stuff like this. So let me see, was it theme? Fonts, constants, colors. Yeah. Okay, so let me try to go through this as best as I can. I don't really play much with UI elements. Margins will give you something like, you know, Microsoft Word margins whereby you actually tell how far it is. So if you actually move it a bit further, like for example, to the top, you wanted to go downwards, right? So the margin at the top should be around like 200, for example. Notice that it went all the way downwards. Okay, and if you can play around with all these numbers, it will move them accordingly to the right, to the left, but it will not ever exceed the parent because the parent is a HBox container, right? If it's positioned at 0, 0, it will not go past 0, 0. Okay, so let's reset all this, make it such that it's normal. And yeah, you can increase the size of it, but this is just going to increase the size of the node for it to be contained. It doesn't actually increase the size of the text. Yep, so it's just allowing you to give you more space to type, for example. And yeah, it's going to be bound towards the size of the words that you have. Okay, let me see, focus, mouse. Okay, this one you can give types of buttons and behaviors if you have a mouse that passes through it. So if your mouse passes through it, right, then it will give like a tooltip, for example. Yeah, so it's the default cursor shape, I think. Okay, yeah, I'm not too sure. But we have the size flags. Okay, yeah, we have all this. It shows you whether or not you want to stretch to the right or expand it out. If you want to fill it towards the entire, to take up the entire size of the thing, or you want to make it to expand. And finally, we have the theme overrides. Okay, so this one, right, if you think that this theme, this font is damn ugly, then what you can do is that you can go to the styles and go to theme overrides and define a theme or a font instead. Okay, so you go to fonts and you can actually fill in your own dynamic font. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to type this, and if you have a font that you like, you can actually put it in here. Okay, so you go to font. The font data is going to be a dynamic font. So I don't have one with me right now because I didn't import the font in, because I didn't really expect to do the UI elements. But yeah, you can drag and drop any font that you want. Okay, so you can type in any find any font that you want. You actually, if you're on Windows, it's actually here. Okay, so you can actually just Control C and Control V any font that you want. For example, if you want this font, you can copy. Yeah, you can copy this, put it into your desktop, okay, or you can put it into your arts asset folder. Hi, welcome. You put it in the arts asset folder, for example, and here it is. Okay, so you have the arts asset folder. I put it in Windows, and here is my font, and I can just drag it in here. And now the help looks like that. Yep. So if you want to make your game a bit more stylish rather than having this very boring font, then that's what you can do.
You want a better form?
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay, I send you the.
Okay, thanks. Where is it? Zoom?
No. It should be in the room.
Oh. It's not like a computer.
Who's wait? I think I put it in the room.
It's not a USB, isn't it? No. Okay.
Oh, I put it in last year's.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you should really like archive
I
on
put
it.
it in last year's meeting. Okay.
So you want to test it out, right? Download this from Discord. And put it inside your projects folder. And then what you can do is that you can take out your game engine, and you can just drag and drop it in. So whatever funny fonts that you have, right, you also can put it inside. Alright, so let's go back to our label, and then if you want to take a look at this font, yeah, it's something like that. The one is very retro, very game-like. So that would be useful if you ever want to use another asset for your game jam, for example. Okay, so we have this very clear one because the one that Godot uses by default, right, is very ugly for some reason. When you scale it up, it becomes very like blurry and very aliased. Okay, so let's have the size of the thing increase. I'm using this off. This. Okay. Now let me try to increase the size. That's right. Let's go then. Gina, how do you change the size of the font? How do you increase the size of the font again?
Under your label, you should reach.
Okay, now would be a good time to rename all your.
Under, I think you click on is it under fonts? It should be some property of font.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, it's yours. Yeah, so that's very discreet, by the way. It's quite hard to see. Yeah, it looks damn ugly.
You can change the outline, you can make it like
Outline.
oh, it's because you are, oh no. Change it to something else.
Okay.
But
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, looks nice. 16, 32, 33.
Yeah, you just make the sign then we,
You know what? I think I think the way it works, right, is that it's implementing it by powers of 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you have like a non-power of 2, like 36, for example, then it looks blurry. You have a power of 2, like 64, then it looks clear. That's pretty dumb. But alright, yeah.
okay, this one is really small, right? That could be why.
Yeah. I think the way they did it was that it needs to stretch by powers of 2. Okay, so 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 164, 128, and 256. Okay, so you want to increase the size, you will have to do it that way. Yeah, 32. Okay, so let's have the help like that. And then we can have a texture progress bar. Okay, so the progress bar, right, what we have to do is that we have to make it such that the control element is affected by the player node. Okay, so let me see. I kind of forgot how to do this one. Okay, you know what? Let's just use change the type. Okay, so anytime you can change the type of the node, that will make it such that it will retain all of its properties as much as possible. But what you can do is you can also delete and edit again. So let's change the type. You can right click and change type. Oops. You can right click and change type. Then you can change it to a texture progress rather than a progress bar. So what happens now is that you can fill in the texture. Okay, now it's asking for a bunch of textures that you can have. So let's create a very plain color for you to put it in. I don't have it here.
Do you need?
Yeah, I need it. Thanks.
Okay.
I was gonna create my own.
I have.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I need to have a under and over and progress. What all these mean, right? You can hover over it and I'll tell you. Okay, so what under means is the texture behind. If you have a health bar, it's gonna look like this. Okay, let me draw it in red. Okay, you have a health bar, and this is the amount of health that you have. Okay, it's like models in everyone again. Okay, so this is the amount of health you have. But the amount of maximum health that you have, right, it's gonna be like this, for example. Okay, so this is what is considered under, and this is what is considered over. Okay, so you take a look at other properties. This is over texture, this is under texture. Then this is progress texture. Okay, sorry. So this one, right, the red one is called the progress texture. What it means, right, is that it's going to be affected by a percentage that you tell it to be. And then this is considered the under. And this one will not be affected by anything. Okay, then you have another one called over. Usually we don't use that because it's like an overlay of the texture. It doesn't really help. But if you want to make it like, have like a glass looking kind of like texture, I have a MapleStory picture, I'll show it. Let me get up my MapleStory again. That's my I'm not gonna say it. Yeah, 201 anyway. Yeah, you have like a bar like this. Okay, so the texture bar, right? Okay, let me find the one that won't die. Like this one. Okay, so this one is when you are gonna take some health. This is the progress. You see that bubbly looking thing, the little white pixels here? That is the over texture, whereby it's like encasing the health bar. So that one's the over texture, the overlay. And then the grey stuff behind, right, is the under texture. Okay, so those are the kind of 3 stuff that we have. So all those textures, right, are gonna be PNG files or JPEG files if you want to, and then you put it inside your Godot here. Okay, you sent it. Thanks. Okay, yeah. So you can download all this. All right, I'm gonna download all this. It's a very simple texture. Thanks. Yeah, I'm gonna save this one. That's it. Unable to save image preview. Yes.
Why do you zip all of it?
I hope not, because that would be a bit troublesome. Hi. I don't know why every single time after 1 hour the internet just dies. So yeah, luckily the recording is still going on. That's great. Okay, let me go back. Yeah. Anyway, I can just keep showing my Google stuff. Like, you know, you can take a lot of inspiration from this. Yeah. Whenever, yeah. So I would like to talk about UI elements using this as an image. But yeah, basically your UI elements is like stuff like that. And all of them are like buttons. So all of them is a lot of art involved when you have to do UI elements. But yeah, sorry. Yeah, but when you do a texture progress like that, it's as simple as taking a red pixel, a red rectangle, and putting it in. Okay, so let me try and download that file. Okay, potentially dangerous download. Did I download it? Okay, extract it and it'll be here. And you have 2 texture bars. So you just open up your Godot and drag and drop them in. Okay, the way dragging and dropping works in Godot is a bit funny. You have to select the folder first, then you drag it in. Okay, so you can't drag it into like backgrounds, for example, if your cursor is on art. If it's on art, then you will want to add it in. Okay, so here's a bit of advice for organization's sake. You should create a folder under art called UI, or you can call it user interface. Okay, for organization's sake. Then you select this, then you drag and drop the textures.
You can just open in File Manager also.
Yeah, you can do that too. But apparently Godot has like some kind of like advice saying that you need to have like some import function whenever you import it in. So if you do the thing, then afterwards you only reload once you actually press something. Okay, so we have the textures. The red one is going to be your progress bar, and the black one is going to be your under texture. So your under texture, just drag and drop. And there you go. And if you have over texture, just drag and drop to the progress. Sorry, not over texture, the progress bar. Okay, so now you see there's no red. Why? It's because the value of the amount of progress that you currently have is nothing. Okay, so you can go to the range and you notice that there's all these values here. Now this one will control the amount of texture progress that you have. So you go to value, you can put 50, and now your curve bar increases to 50. But it's a bit offset because now you have to make it such that the progress texture is not offset. Okay, so we have this progress offset here. Play around with it and make sure that it fills in right towards the texture. Okay, so you can increase it. Yeah, you can play around with it. Press like 1, it's not enough. Press 2, still not enough. Okay, actually, yeah, 2 or 3 is looking like it. Yeah, so you can press 2, and that's it. And then you want it to go down a little bit, so you press like 2. Yeah, and it looks perfect. Okay, so now that's our progress. Now you play around with this value. Like 125%, here you go. You want 90% also can. And then there's a bunch of other values you play with, like the step. Okay, the step is basically how much you will update. So that's now update every 1%. If you want to update it every like 20%, so you can only have like 5 segments, then you can make it like that. Okay, so now the value, if it's like at 80, then it'll be like that. But if it's at 85, it will still be looking like as if it's 80. Okay, so this will make it like simpler, but of course that's the style of your game. If you want the style of your game to have the UI elements whereby it's like bar by bar, and then you want the texture to repeat, like have 5 bars. Okay, let me see. Do I have my Angelic Buster or something? Okay, yeah, but basically, yeah, I can't find the one with the bars. Your texture progress can be anything. It very varies. So that's quite fun.
Just drop down. Just show the drop down menu.
Okay. What's your name?
You go back to the
Okay.
add view mode. Change the view mode.
Okay.
All the way on top. All the way on top.
Okay.
The view mode. Yeah.
That's right. What you want again?
Clockwise.
Okay, clockwise.
Yeah, I'll change the values.
Okay. Let me reset the step to 1. Okay, 100. 80. 60. Oh yeah, now it's looking like I don't really know where's the center of it. 40 and 50.
Okay, this is a bar, that's why it looks so odd.
Yeah.
But if it's actually a circle, it will look better.
Yeah, so you want to make it like your, like a stamina bar from Breath of the Wild, then you can make it like, fill it in from one circle around. Okay, like you've seen the stamina bar from Breath of the Wild. This is how it looks like. Breath of the Wild. I can never finish the game. Stamina bar, the stamina wheel. Yeah, it looks like that. So you want it to look like that, and afterwards you can make it fill, have like a bunch of texture progresses, and then it'll fill it in that way. Okay, so that's like the designs from Skyward Sword. Okay, yeah. So yeah, you can make it. There's a bunch of stuff that you want. You can even make it fill in from the center. I think. Yeah, something like that. Or you can even make, have a bunch of stuff, but let's just go with left and right. Okay, so left and right. So that's your health bar. Okay, so the interesting thing now we want to do is to make it such that this thing was going to be affected by our actual health. Okay, but let's make it a bit nicer for now. Okay, let's rename this control to something more important, like heads up display, or I can just call it HUD. And the label will be our health label. Our progress bar will be the health bar. Okay, so those are the things that you should rename it. Okay. And for the health bar, you can actually just try to make it a bit downwards. Okay, so our health is here, but our bar is here. So let's try to make it closer. Okay, so health, and then our health bar, we want to make it such that it goes down a little bit more. Okay, to do that, you can make it such that the position of this health bar is at the center. Okay, let me try to find it, because there's a bunch of things here. Direction, angle, position, size, input, bounce, focus, hint, angle. No, there's one thing I don't really like is UI elements. I don't really like, doing UI elements in game dev. Really feel. Oh yeah. Okay, that's EXP. Okay. Now it's no longer.
You can try a margin, but like
Yeah.
thematic. Okay, like the point of the HBox container is for you to do something, right?
Yeah, HBox container is basically just to make it such that every single child of it will be appended to the right. Yeah. Okay. I think it was, yeah. You can play around the margin. Let's make it suppressed from the top, so you can make it like 100 pixels down. Oops. You can make it like 20 pixels down. Yeah, then that will work. Okay. I don't really like that.
One thing I do is I save that as a new scene and then just use the node to do stuff. As a hack to do that.
Okay. Alright. But yeah. Everyone else that I've watched does this, I think. Okay. Oh my goodness. Yeah, okay, you know what? Let's just go with this. In the game jam, you don't really care about how you do it, it's just as long as it works. Okay, so yeah, our health bar looks like this now. It looks good. Okay, so now let's make it such that our texture, this guy, our our value currently is going to be affected by the amount of health. So every single time your health updates, then you will want to make this thing decrease or increase, for example. Okay, so let's give our player health. Okay, so let's set this as 50. So as you can see, it doesn't matter because later we'll want to make it such that it's tight. Okay, so let's go back to our player and go to our scene. Okay, so what you notice is that this player, right, is gonna be a child of the game, and so is the UI. The UI is also gonna be a child of the game. So what I'm gonna teach you right now, right, is how to interact two nodes or two sister nodes or sibling nodes with one another. Okay, so this is going to be something called like knowing your structure. What you can do, right, is that you can go get your parent and you ask your parent to go get the UI element, and then you go attack the health bar, which is going to be a child of it. And I don't want to yeah, but it's going to be a health bar here, and so is the progress. Okay, and a child of it, what is the property of it, right? It's going to be called the progress or the value. So that's what I want to change, because that's the thing that affects the thing that it looks like it. Okay, so a very simple thing that we can do, right, is that every single time we collide with the ball that we see here. Okay, so remember the ball. Let's get out. Okay, so remember the ball here, right? Every single time we touch it, the ball will fly upwards. Okay, what we can do is that we can make it such that the ball hits us too. Okay, but currently our player, what's going on? Okay. I am not aware of this. Alright,
What form used for level 1?
oh yeah. Okay, so yeah, we have to do that soon. If we cannot cover this, then we'll just cover it during the game jam. If you all need my help, then I'll be there, of course. Okay, so then afterwards, if you want to add a mana bar, sometimes your game doesn't even need a health bar because you might not be making an RPG. Okay, then afterwards, I can help you with that. Okay, so yeah, I guess we'll go. You can ask right now. What the heck?
Yeah, so this is the QR code if you want to scan again, but just ignore that first. So now it's idling, as you can see, idling very hard. Then when you run, you transition to the running mode. Okay. And now jumping still not working because we haven't set the jump. So now we go back to the script here. We do the jumping. Did I mute myself?
All right. Min can you hear me or not? Like Unity side.
Yep.
Okay, can. All right. For those in the Unity and Godot classes, I know it's a bit echoey at the back. So yeah. So if you can't hear, please just come more to the front. So yeah, guys, welcome back. I hope you all had a fun time doing all the workshops and enjoyed partaking in the workshops. Big thank you to Celeste who did all the work all the way from Australia. So yay, thank you to her. Yes, that's her. Yes, thank you so much. So yeah, welcome back to the from the workshop. So right now, we'll be starting to do the groups for level 1 games. Okay, let me also set up the breakout rooms in case. All right. So yeah, right now we will be doing the team formation for level 1 games. There's 2 groups of